We were talking about election spending and PPCRV, PCIJ, noting a lot of old issues, persistent issues, essentially having to deal with. We actually don't know how politicians are spending, overspending, I think safe to say. I mean, you're a politician, let's face it. You're a winning politician. But what is your own take on what can we do in terms of electoral reform and electoral finance reform?
Well, Robbie, I caught a little bit of the discussion earlier. And then on Twitter, I saw a little bit of the discussion by PCIJ. And I saw some numbers being flashed. And apparently, again, no, I haven't read the report of Nielsen and PCIJ. But apparently, the report of PCIJ came from the Nielsen's report. And from my information from our media buyer, because we all know that politicians, products, and companies, they don't go straight to the media companies, television and radio. They normally go through media buyers. And apparently, the Nielsen's report only flashed the rack rate of the ads, as well as the actual minutes for the ads. We all know nobody pays the rack rate. Discounts are given to special clients, to special media buyers, or even directly to companies and to advertisers. The discounts being given by television and radio, and I'm sure you know this because you guys are in media, vary depending on the relationship and depending on the capacity of the media buyer. So the report that I saw earlier on Twitter is the rack rate. But we don't know, personally, I don't know how much is the actual spending of the candidates. Because they might be, I'm very, very sure, I'm 101% sure they are given discounts, special rates, sometimes 3 minutes as a package. No? So the numbers being flashed earlier is not accurate because we have to look at the SOSE, because the SOSE is the actual declaration of the candidates, and the actual declaration can be supported by the declaration from the TV and the radio stations themselves directly to COMELEC. So you have the receipts from the candidates, then you have the minutes from the television, and then you put that together to reconcile the two numbers.
Fair enough. And we do have to say to the public, in fairness to PCIJ, when they presented this report, they were very, very clear on that. They did qualify it is possible that the spending is lower because this was based on published rates. But to that point, the other side to that is, as you said, we all know that media agencies offer discounts. But the other thing that nasasagit ng mga tao, but we also know that politicians were spending well before official election season. We also know that politicians have so many loopholes of going around this. And the second point is PCIJ having to deal, and journalists having to deal with published rates and essentially use assumptions is in itself an indicator, you would agree, that's for lack of transparency or that's for lack of access to verifiable information that we can work with. And sources are well and good, but these are also in the self-interest of the candidates, hindi po ba? I guess that's the question. Beyond the source, and particularly taking into account the reality that people know that politicians are spending, in fact, years in some cases before any election season, how do we bring reform there?
The SOSE is actually meant to regulate the spending of candidates. There is regulation in terms of ad spending and campaign spending for local candidates as well as for national candidates. And the SOSE will be an accurate measure on how much the candidate is spending during the campaign season. If I'm not mistaken, the SOSE is a public document, and the public can actually ask for the SOSE and its supporting documents. If I'm not mistaken, I think COMELEC releases the SOSE to individuals and to outfits who are interested in knowing how much a candidate spent.
By way of legislation, what do you see, what measures can you see that might be doable, that might be passed by the 19th Congress? Kahit maliit lang, minor reforms. Kasi halimbawa, merong mga suggestion ngayon, bakit hindi bigyan ng equal time on all the multiple platforms, yung mga kahit man lang yung national candidates?
Yeah, actually, social media is the hardest to regulate, no, and the hardest to monitor. In fact, when we were planning for our social media campaign, we were actually threading very carefully on how to disclose and how to account for our social media campaign. For example, I'll give you a very specific example. We have supporters who actually pay, unknown supporters, who actually spend to advertise our works, advertise our accomplishments, but we don't know them. These are honest to goodness constituents who wants to help out a candidate. And actually, that became a very difficult monitoring for us, because we don't want to be accused of using or circumventing the law by using dummies or by using other people to advertise for us. No? Social media is actually a very tricky medium to monitor. But then again, we have to come up with some regulation on how to track down social media and the likes.